world hangs in the balance as Marvel fans across the globe go to watch Eternals and decide if it is a good or bad MCU movie. Well, I'm a Marvel fan and I've got a YouTube channel, so I'm gonna talk about it right now. What's up, everybody? It's Josh coming at you from Nerd Avengers Tower. As per usual, just a raw reaction and breakdown video for Marvel's Eternals. I just got out of the theater less than an hour ago, so I want to sort of give my raw thoughts on the film. Okay, so let's sort of start here. I liked this movie. I did not love this movie, but I did like it, and I sort of want to anchor it there, and I'll come back to this at the end of the video because there's going to be a lot of stuff that I'm going to say about the film that is negative, and I don't want to give the impression that I didn't like the movie. I walked away from this movie being like, no, I liked it. There's a lot to enjoy here. The characters were fun. I liked certain characters way more than I thought I was going to. The action's incredible, and the MCU lore is deep. So overall, I am satisfied as a Marvel fan. But about 2/3 of the way through the film, I was actually taken aback by how much I loved the movie. I thought the critics were crazy. I thought we were doing something really special with the tone and the characters and the buildup, and a lot of the things that I thought were maybe going to be an issue weren't an issue at all for me personally. And then the third act of the movie happens. And the third act is very, very sloppy and has a lot of problems. And the deal is this. I actually think hidden within the Eternals is maybe one of the best Marvel movies ever made, but it's not the movie that they released. It really feels like a film that should have been focus tested a little bit more, tightened up just a little bit, because there are absolutely incredible things in this movie that, again, are just overshadowed by the sort of clunkiness and the way it in some ways falls apart in the third act. I think the best way I can explain how I feel about the film overall is to say that I think this is one of the best okay movies I've ever seen. I frankly do understand where a lot of the critics are coming from, because there are just, to me, very functional problems with that third act that just can't possibly, in the eyes of many critics, make it a good movie. And so let's get into that. Like, what are we talking about when we talk about this third act of the film? To me, it really all starts to fall apart when they all get back on the ship and they're basically essentially having Phastos create the machine that they can all mind meld together and try to take over the Celestial. Okay, so from there it gets a little weird and not only a little cringy with some of the jokes, and it almost feels like tonally it's like a total departure from the pace that has come before, but you also get the weirdness of Icarus just going along with everything and then leaving the ship to have a moment to decide that he's not going to go along with anything. And then he comes into the ship, not to stop them, but to say that he'll stop them. And then he flies away. And from there, they actually formulate the plan. They make the little bracelet dealies. They go to where the emergence is happening. Icarus and, what's her name? Sprite. Yeah, Icarus and Sprite are there to stop them. And they do have this, like, very epic, awesome fight. But again, the pacing is just really jarring leading up to that. I'm like, okay, so we're doing it, we're not doing it, what's going on? It almost even feels like a lot of the character moments from that point on are like forced, and what was really happening at a natural organic pace up until that moment becomes kind of cliche and just happens in really weird sequences. And there were a lot of like weird Deus Ex Machina moments, like Icarus takes out Druid and then he randomly comes back and bashes Sprite in the head with a rock, like just in the nick of time, and it just really feels like a clumsily conceived plot. And then let's talk about the Deviant who's absorbing the other Celestials as we go along in the film. Like, what is his deal at all? Why is he important to the movie in any way other than to just push some weird other thread and maybe to be a cool marketing mechanic? Because honestly, he does very little for the movie overall. And then the whole scene with him and Thena, I mean, I guess you could say that's a powerful character moment for her, but I feel like she already had her character moment in the kind of cringy part of the film where she's convincing Cersei to actually step up to the plate. Again, just part of the clunkiness that's in that third act. I don't think that deviant dude serves much of a purpose at all. So then they go to do their thing, but then they can't actually do it. Cersei then starts deciding that she can give this a shot, and she transmutes the Celestial into stone using its own power and the connection that they have as Eternals to the Celestial as it's being birthed. That's cool, actually pretty fun. But then you have that ending where the Celestial pops back up again, brings Cersei and the other Celestial or the other Eternals in front of it, says, I'm going to use your memories to judge humanity, but then has to go somewhere else to read their memories before coming back eventually to judge the Earth. It's like a really poorly paced third act that, if I'm being honest, like almost ruins the fun of the movie for me. And I think that's really where a lot of critics are coming from. They're like, hey, like there are some things in this movie that really work, but then that third act is just spun together in such a way that all of the kind of goodness that comes before really is tarnished by that execution. And to me, again, I'm going to talk in a minute here about all the things I really, really liked about the movie, but I would just say that it's shocking to me that Marvel Studios didn't catch this third act, like that they didn't realize that this third act was as clumsy as it is and made some major changes to it. Like they should have definitely changed things to make it better. Like honestly, cut that deviant dude completely out. I actually probably would have cut a couple of the Eternals out just to keep everything tighter. You should have had Icarus immediately start fighting them. The emergence happen as that's going on. They don't have the Care Bear sort of let's put our bracelets together sort of plan. Instead, just make Cersei step up in the moment. You can still have Athena give her that speech. Then she just transmutes, unbeknownst to her, using the power of the Celestial. She could then transmute the Celestial. You could even have a moment where Icarus could stop her, but decides not to because of his love for her. You could still do all of the things that you did, just make it better. Now, having said that, as I explained before, 2/3 of the way into this movie, I was absolutely loving it. I thought the vibe was incredible. And it's funny because right up until that third act, I felt like the character development of all of these different characters was really well handled. It's a complex ensemble type cast, but I actually really love the way each of their personal motivations and sort of struggles with their own existence and their mission is played out throughout the series. Like it's really, really cool. Like seeing Druig like want to make them all shut down and not have war and his complaints about that. I like the scene with Fastos after the bomb goes off at Hiroshima. I thought that was really interesting, and the relationships between the characters is really well developed as well. Like Athena going crazy and Gilgamesh committing to watching her. There's a lot of great stuff in there. It honestly felt like it could have been incredible, like all-time great, one of the best MCU movies of all time, because that first two acts are really strong in my opinion. I think the Dane stuff at the beginning of the movie is a little bit forced and it's a little bit clunky, you know, kind of getting right into the, you know, deviants coming after everybody. But other than that, I did really, really enjoy the first two acts. As far as other stuff that I really liked, the powers were absolutely incredible. So cool, that last fight, even though it's in the middle of that clunky third act, that amazing fight where they're all coming after Icarus. Very, very cool. Gilgamesh using the technology thing, which looked a lot like the 10 Rings stuff to me. We'll talk more about that in other videos. The Speedster, that was super fun. Very, very cool. Like incredible effects and a lot of the lighting, like even where they're fighting in the village before that. It was awesome, man. Like the way she shot natural made the deviants look even creepier and less like plasticky. So there's a lot to love with the digital and visual effects. I also feel like the sound design in this movie was incredible. There are some moments that I legitimately felt in the theater, like different hits and things that Gilgamesh was doing and that the deviants would pull off. I literally like felt it. So it was incredible sound design. The music works really, really well in a lot of the movie. So all of that is really cool. But maybe one of the coolest parts of the film is the lore that it begins to establish and some of the more interesting things that we can begin to speculate about the future of the MCU, right? This power of the Celestials existing before the universe, before creation, and before the six singularities is a really interesting concept. The World Forge that is used to create the Eternals, that is really interesting as well. The idea of Thanos having an Eternal brother, and it's sort of being teased out by Ajax that maybe Thanos did what he did to delay the emergence. A lot of fun lore type stuff going on there. You know, there's mention of Kingo, you know, hanging out with Thor when he was a young boy, and now he's like this big Avenger. There's a lot of fun stuff that I really got excited sort of thinking about in my sort of macro theory about what is going on with the MCU with like cosmic power, how it is magic and science. A lot of those ideas are actually made even stronger by this film. So the lore within it was incredible. The action was incredible. I felt like it was really, really well acted. Like, you know, there's only a few moments that I thought were not that great and sort of cringy. And then really it's that third act that I have a problem with. So I would overall say that I enjoyed Eternals a lot, and I do want to revisit it, but it is sort of shocking to me that nobody was like, dude, this third act needs changed and tightened up. And it's kind of wild to me that they left this movie the way that it is, because it's also a really long movie. You could cut a lot out of this and really streamline that last, you know, third act. And I think you're looking at a much better film. So overall, I'd probably have to say it's really going to depend on after I see it a couple more times. It's either a 6 out of 10 or a 7 out of 10, maybe right down the middle, maybe a 6.5 out of 10, which puts it like kind of in the lower part of the MCU pantheon for me, or I guess in the back middle. But it is not as bad as I think some of the critics are making it out to be. But at the same time, I can also understand why a movie critic who goes to, you know, see a ton of movies and really enjoys the functional structure of a 3-act story, I can totally understand why a normal critic might look at this movie and be like, that third act completely falls apart. It's way too reliant on exposition. It's not a good film. So there you have it, guys. I'm going to sort of sleep on it. We'll talk more about it tomorrow on the live stream. I'll talk more about it in other videos as well. But again, overall, I liked the movie. I didn't love the movie. I do recommend that you go see it. I had a lot of fun in the theater. The third act's a little bit shaky, a lot of bit shaky actually, but overall a really fun experience and a good Marvel movie. So those are my thoughts on Eternals. What did you think of Eternals? If you saw it, let me know in the comment section below. I'll be hanging out in there a little bit just to see what you guys are saying. Like this video if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel to see more of our content. Pop up in your recommended feed and go check out the live streaming channel. We'll be talking about Eternals in full detail tomorrow, and we're always talking about fun nerdy stuff over there, so go check that out. As I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.